Hello and welcome to X and Y Gaming Casually Competitive. For only the second time ever in my life, I will now write a script for a deck profile. I have no idea how this is supposed to work out as a final product, but I hope it's good enough to watch. Anyway, the Shaddoll deck is very fascinating and has wonderful potential towards getting a leg up on your opponent. The whole deck focuses on fusion monsters, so it's very old school Yu-Gi-Oh! In that sense. However, there is one Link monster and a handful of these monsters in the extra deck to help facilitate plays or offer outs to certain problematic cards. Now with the main deck Shaddoll cards themselves, they each have two different abilities that will trigger under similar circumstances for each. Either a Shaddoll's monster's effect will activate if it is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, say as part of a fusion summon, although specifically not if it is sent as the cost for a card. Then the Shaddoll cards have an on-field effects that activate when they're flipped. In fact, they're flip effect monsters. Now that we have the general playstyle out of the way, let's look at the deck. Just before we get started here, quick reminder that this deck is for sale alongside my entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Collection, which is 15 Speed Duel Decks, 2 MR5 Decks, all sleeved and boxed with 3 boxes full of extra cards and sleeves, only for $300, and will be mailed in its entirety via first class priority with a tracking number so you can follow your cards every step of the way. Also accepting donations to the homeless as I am. Starting with the main deck Shaddoll monsters, we have Shaddoll Beast, a level 5 dark spellcaster with 2200 attack and 1700 defense, who, when flipped, lets you draw 2 cards and then discard 1. And when it's sent to the graveyard via card effect, you can draw 1 card. I run Mr. Beast at 3 for the optimal draw power, but like any other profile, you can tweak the ratios as you see fit. Next up is Shaddoll Dragon, a level 4 dark spellcaster with 1900 attack and 0 defense. The flip effect lets you target any one card your opponent controls in order to then return it to the hand. Its sent to the graveyard effect is to target any one spell trap on the field to then destroy it. So basically MST. Anyway, he's at 2. 3 Shaddoll Squamata come in after as a level 4 dark spellcaster with 1800 attack and 1000 defense, and flips to let you target one monster on the field to destroy it. His graveyard effect lets you send any one card with Shaddoll in its card name from your deck to the graveyard, except for any other copy of Squamata, of course. Me personally, I send a trap card I'll get to later, but you can send any of the other Shaddoll monsters and get their effects if you haven't already used them that turn. 1 Shaddoll Hound is in here as a level 4 dark spellcaster with 1600 attack and 900 defense, who flips to target any one Shaddoll card in your graveyard so you can then add it to your hand. Its graveyard effect will then let you target one monster on the field to then change its battle position. This effect has, on occasion, come in handy, and that's why he's at 1. From under the sea, we have 2 Nail Shaddoll Ariel, a level 4 water psychic with 1000 attack and 1800 defense with a flip effect that lets you target one of your banished Shaddoll monsters to then special summon it in face of attack or face down defense position. Quite handy. Her graveyard effect is to target up to 3 cards in either graveyard so you can then banish them. Also pretty handy on occasion. The next 3 are personal favorites. Shaddoll Wendy, a level 3 wind psychic with 1500 attack and 1000 defense, with both the flip and graveyard effects being that they special summon literally any one Shaddoll monster from your deck in face down defense position. Next up is 2 Shaddoll Hedgehog, and maybe this one should be at 3 actually, but if you go in to purchase this, there's a 3rd in one of the boxes. Either way, Hedgehog is a level 3 dark spellcaster with 800 attack and 200 defense that flips to let you add 1 Shaddoll spell trap from your deck to your hand, while the graveyard effect lets you add any one Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand. Yeah, I just typed that and will probably agree even harder when I read it out loud. Do I? Yeah, I do. Second to last main deck Shaddoll is Shaddoll Falco, a level 2 dark spellcaster with 600 attack and 1400 defense that flips to let you target any one Shaddoll in your graveyard except another copy of Falco to then special summon it in face down defense position. Its graveyard effect simply special summons itself from the graveyard in face down defense position. He's at 2 and maybe should be at 1. Who knows? The last of them is Shaddoll Chaos, a level 2 light spellcaster with 900 attack and 100 defense, with a not so great flip effect of summoning another Shaddoll monster from your hand in face up or face down defense position. I mean, more field presence is great, but it's not from the deck. A big Chaos is a light attribute, which is important in some key circumstances you do find yourself in duels. At any rate, Chaos' graveyard effect is to send another one Shaddoll monster from your hand to the graveyard in order to, for the rest of the turn, have all monsters you control gain attack and defense equal to the original level of that monster sent by times 100. This is a niche play that lets you discard Beast for 500 extra attack, pushing the main boss fusion monster to 3300, usually enough to beat over most other boss monsters. And yeah, that isn't really all that great either, to be honest. The best thing about Chaos is that the card is light, and that's very important, which I can get to in a bit. First, note that I also run one Lava Golem for field removal, and then also you can combo it with Super Poly, and one Mathematician, because it can Foolish on summon and draws you one when it dies. Next up is the Spell Trap lineup in the main deck, and we're starting up the main playmaker of the deck, 3 Shaddoll Fusion, a normal spell card that lets you fusion summon any one Shaddoll Fusion monster from your extra deck by sending monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. The monsters you send will depend on the fusion monsters you'll want to summon, as they're each based on different attributes, and we'll of course get to them as we go. However, Shaddoll Fusion has a very powerful secondary effect that states if your opponent controls a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, you can also use monsters in your deck as fusion material. By the way, you can only activate one of these per turn, but yeah, the fact that you can, in theory, make Construct by sending Chaos and Wendy from your deck just really make my day. Obviously it's a bad time if this gets negated, but that can really be said for any other good card or combo, so... Next is 3 Shaddoll Fusion, a quick play spell that lets you fusion summon one Shaddoll Fusion monster from your extra deck by sending monsters from your hand or field as fusion material. The obvious draw here is that it's a quick play spell, so to be used on your opponent's turn, and is just another catalyst to facilitate getting the fusions out. Also, 1 Neff Shaddoll Fusion, an equipped spell that lets you change the attribute of a Shaddoll monster it's equipped to, and then also to perform a Shaddoll Fusion summon during your main phase, using monsters from your hand or field, but including the equipped monster. I also should maybe run more of this one, but I don't particularly care for equipped spells, so maybe you see my dilemma. The last fusion catalysting spell card is the ever-popular, ever-hated, quick play spell, Spell Speed 4, Super Polymerization. That's right, just by sending any one card from your hand as a discard, you can then fusion summon literally any one fusion monster from your extra deck by using monsters from either side of the field as a fusion material. And neither player can activate cards or effects in response to this card's activation, meaning it will never not happen so long as you have a card to discard for the cost. This is easily one of my favorite cards to use in this deck, especially since there's an Shaddoll Fusion for every attribute. That's why I have no problem running this at 3. The rest of the Shaddoll spell traps are actually just traps, and it's 2 each of Resh Shaddoll Incarnation and Shaddoll Core. Incarnation is a monster reborn for Shaddolls that lets you choose either face up or face down defense to summon them in. But its graveyard effect is more amazing, and can't be used if you use the Monster Reborn portion already. You can banish Incarnation and another one Shaddoll card from your graveyard to change any one face-up monster you control to face-down defense position, or to change any one face-down monster you control to face-up defense position. I love using listed force draws from Beast, or summons from Wendy, or just getting a quick destruction off of Squamata during your opponent's turn. The possibilities are fairly accommodating, I gotta say. Alright, Shaddoll Core is a continuous trap that, upon activation, summons itself as a level 9 Dark Spellcaster effect monster with 1450 attack and 1950 defense. Once it's out, you can substitute the monster for one fusion material that lists a specific attribute, but only a Shaddoll Fusion monster. Also, if the card in general is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target one Shaddoll spell trap in your graveyard, except under the core, to then add it to your hand. And lastly, the final cards of the main deck are 1 Pot of Avarice for recycling extra deck monsters, then drawing 2, 1 Foolish Burial for getting specific effects off, 1 Twin Twister for back row, and 2 Lost Wind for negating special summoned monsters and halving their attack. Also, Lost Wind can set itself from the graveyard if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's extra deck. I mean, it gets banished when it leaves the field, but still. Well, 3 pages and 12 minutes into recording in, and I'm finally at the extra deck. I really hope I managed to make this interesting. Anyway, Tornado Dragon, Honor Arc, Castell, and Abyss Dweller are all rank 4 Xyz monsters with the effects that deal with back row removal, 1 monster absorption, sending any one face-up card on the field back to the deck, and keeping your opponent from activating any card effects in their graveyard this turn, respectively. Just stack 2 level 4 monsters on top of each other to special summon any one of the rank 4 Exeast monsters on top of that stack, and then use that Exeast material stacked underneath as ammo for the effects. Easy. The 1-link monster is Shaddoll Construct and can be summoned from the extra deck by sending any 2 flip effect monsters from the field to the graveyard. She's also a Link to Light Berry Link monster with 1200 attack and arrows that point left and right. During your main phase, you can fusion summon any one Shaddoll fusion monster by sending monsters from your hand or field. Also, if Construct is in the graveyard, you can send a Shaddoll from your hand or face up on the field to the graveyard in order to special summon itself. Another great and easy way to get a light monster to summon the main boss, who, let's just get to right now, El Shaddoll Construct, the OG Construct, if you will, a level 8 2800, 2500 light fairy fusion monster with the amazing effect that reads as follows. Must first be fusion summoned. If this card is special summoned at all, you can send any one Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. Also, at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summoned monster, destroy that monster. Also, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target any one Shaddoll spell trap in your graveyard and then add it to your hand. Wow. So she's ran at 2 and pretty much just runs over everything all the time. At the time she runs into actual brute strength, Chaos and or Lost Wind are there to help. Maybe something with special summon but can only be destroyed by battle? It does happen. Also, when she's sent to the graveyard, you can target any one Shaddoll spell trap from your graveyard to add it to your hand. Next, we'll just work our way from the smallest to the largest El Shaddoll fusion monsters. By the way, again, their gimmick is that each Shaddoll monster is a fusion monster between any one Shaddoll monster and any other monster of a specific attribute. In El Shaddoll Construct's case, she needed a light monster, as she's a light monster. Just like Linda, the level 5 2200 800 Dark Spellcaster fusion that requires any one Shaddoll monster and any other monster, but that has a dark attribute. She also must first be fusion summoned and cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effects. Also, each player can only special summon 1 or more monsters once per turn while this card is face up on the field. Meaning once you get her out, you better make sure it's at the end of your plays, or you'll find yourself in a sore spot soon. And when she gets sent to the graveyard, you can recycle a Shaddoll spell trap from your graveyard to your hand. El Shaddoll Wendigo is a level 6 200 2800 Wind Psychic that requires a Shaddoll and a Wind. Must first be fusion summoned. Her main effect, via quick effect, lets you target one monster you control, so that this turn it cannot be destroyed by battle with an opponent's special summoned monster. You can only do that once per turn, and when she goes, you get to recycle a Shaddoll spell trap. El Shaddoll Apkalon is a level 6 2500 2000 Dark Spellcaster that actually requires any 2 Shaddoll monsters, but with different attributes. It may be a bit strange, and why I try not to run too many of just the Dark Shadolls. But despite needing to first be fusion summoned and not being able to be destroyed by battle, upon summoning it, you get to target any one face-up card on the field to then just straight up negate its effects. Like forever. The other thing it can only do once per turn is that when it gets sent to the graveyard, you can add any Shaddoll card from either your deck or graveyard to your hand, and then discard any one card. So, yeah, if the card you're about to pick is about to be the only card in your hand, well, just don't get too attached. El Shaddoll Grista exists primarily to justify using Lava Golem, and is, for whatever reason, a level 7 2450 1950 Fire Rock fusion that, you guessed it, requires any Shaddoll and any fire. Must first be blah blah when your opponent would special summon any number of monsters at one time while you have a Shaddoll card in your hand. And by the way, this is a quick effect. You can negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster, then send any one Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard. Whew. You can only do that once per turn, and if it gets sent, it recycles a spell trap. I gotta be honest, I love the negation effect, I just don't really use it or summon Grista much. But when I do, it's hilarious. For me. I can't believe I'm on page 5 of a deck profile. Anyway, El Shaddoll Anoyatilis is a level 9 2700 200 Water Fiend fusion that has to first be fusion summoned and also recycles a Shaddoll spell trap when it gets sent. More important is its continuous lockdown effect that reads, neither player can special summon monsters from their from their hand or graveyard using spell trap effects. This might slow you down just a little bit, like with Incarnation, but overall keeping your opponent out of their graveyard is pretty powerful stuff. And the last card out of the deck in its entirety is the level 10 2600 3000 Earth Machine El Shaddoll Shekinaga, a wonderful wall of a woman that has to first be special summoned and then also recycles a Shaddoll spell trap when it gets sent. But also, as a quick effect while you have a Shaddoll card in your hand, when a special summon monster activates its effects, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. Then send one Shaddoll card from your hand to the graveyard, and you can only use that effect of Shekinaga once per turn. Now that we've gotten all the cards out of the way, let's talk general strategy. Regardless of your overall playstyle and how you intend to manipulate the ratios or ultimately play the deck, the basic core concept of what makes Shaddoll so special remains the same: chain blocking. If you don't know, when you do something like a monster effect that your opponent then activates a quick play spell in response to, that in turn triggers your trap card, that's a chain. So long as neither of you want to add more stuff to that chain, the whole chain resolves in reverse order, meaning the trap card would resolve its effect first, then the spell card if it doesn't get negated, and then your monster's effect if it didn't get negated, or in some cases got destroyed or otherwise removed from the field. The fact of the matter is, when you perform a fusion summon with, say, Re-Shaddoll Windy and Quas-Shaddoll Chaos via Shaddoll Fusion, in order to fusion summon El Shaddoll Construct, you're going to have the opportunity to use all three effects essentially at the same time, and more importantly, you will get the choice of what order they stack in. Meaning, once you're done stacking them in whatever order, then your opponent will get a chance to activate some card or effect in response, but only to the last card in the chain, and the first two will be guaranteed to resolve. Unless your opponent plays some crazy negate all effects in the chain effect, but I mean, there's probably so much more I could just go on about, but ultimately I really think I should end this video here before I keep writing many more pages to read. At any rate, this deck is still for sale alongside the rest of my Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards collection. For $300, I'll mail you the entire card collection, first class with a tracking number. Maybe consider donating to the homeless, as I am. And at the very least, thank you oh so very much for watching my silly Yu-Gi-Oh! Video. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.